morning, all of you. We will continue with the history chapter, European powers in India. So, we have just started this chapter and we have done that what mercantilism is. So, we have understood the concept of mercantilism, that what they wanted to have a positive balance of trade. Now, what does that mean? That you export more than you import. So, you export more, import less, and so what will happen? The other company's money will come into your hand. You will increase your gold reserves also. So that was the concept. And mercantilism, it this theory of mercantilism, it led to uh, the spread of colonization also, because what happened, these countries, these superpowers of Europe and these strong countries, what they did, they started to make colonies, so that there they can sell their goods also, and from there they can take money. So what happened as a result, that the colonies that were established by these countries, now they were left underdeveloped and dependent on the home nation, and the home country, all right, it their gold reserves also grew and they became economically better off. Okay, so let's move on. Page number 15, major global trade routes. Now, after the Mughal Empire, it disintegrated, and means now we did not have those greater Mughals, and during the time of the lesser Mughals and all. So, it appeared that the Marathas now, they were rising to power, but they also declined after the invasions of the Afghans, and within the next 20 years, what happened, a large part of the country, it came under the direct control of the British East India Trading Company. Now, uh, what happened, how, what all events led to this? Now, the discovery of a direct sea route from the western coast of Europe to India. Now, it was a great event, and it had so many effects on India as well as on other parts of the world, especially Europe. So, this discovery of this trade route, now it had effects on India as well as on Europe. Now, India, it already had a flourishing trade with Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Asia countries from very early times. Means not only during these years, but even much before that, India already had trade links with these countries, and now because there were better transport facilities, so they increased the feasibility, or you can say the convenience. Means now without difficulty, they can. Trade with Europe. So Indian traders could trade with Europe without any difficulty, because now they had better transport facilities. And there's no doubt that India, they always had contact with Europe, but after the discovery of a direct sea route by Vasco da Gama, it opened a new chapter in our country's economy. Now the Europeans, they bought spices from our country. So they bought spices, and they bought indigo, they bought salt, pepper, and textiles, etc. from India, because these items were not available there. So spices, you all know. Yes, what are spices?
Masale, masale.
Spices. Yes, all right.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, the things which are put in food to make it more spicy.
Okay, all right. So, they were interested in spices from here, uh, cloves and cardamom, all right, and pepper and all that. So, they were interested there. And they were also interested in indigo. What is indigo? Does anyone know? Indigo? Any idea?
Ma'am, color.
Yes, Anubhav.
Ma'am, it is used to color clothes.
All right. Yes, it is a blue colored dye. Then saltpeter. Now, saltpeter was used to make gunpowder. What do you call gunpowder in Hindi?
Ma'am, Barood.
Right. Okay. And textiles. So, means cloth. They were also interested in that. And the Europeans, they use these spices to preserve their food, indigo to dye the cloth, and saltpeter to make gunpowder. And the fine textile that they got from India, now that satisfied the needs of the aristocratic, means the nobles, the higher level of society, means the upper class society. So the fine textiles that they got from India, that satisfied the needs of the nobles of or the aristocratic Europeans. And in return for these goods, the Europeans, they paid the Indian traders back in gold and silver. And so Indian merchants, they earned a lot of wealth in this process. But from 15th century to 19th century, a new pattern of global trade flows emerged, and this new pattern, it was based on mercantilism. Now we have already done that in China, India, and Southeast Asia. For centuries, they were trading, and they for centuries these countries had been the origin of trade flows, because trade flowed from here. And now they basically, it was involving these luxury goods like spices, silk, tea, porcelain. And so basically this involved a positive flow of capital. Why positive? For these countries there was a positive flow of capital, or positive flow of money. Why? Because the other countries to whom they were selling these goods, now they did not have anything to offer in exchange for these goods. Like the barter system, like I give you wheat, you give me rice. So like if they were giving them like spices, silk, or anything, but these countries, they did not have anything to offer back to Indian merchants, because what we wanted they did not have. And so they had to pay the money in cash or silver. Now this pattern, it continued to exist for a long time. And in the 19th century, India, it was incorporated in the British Empire after the revolt of 1857. Later on 1858, new laws came up, and according to that, India, it became a part of the British Empire. So they got control over us. So the when all this happened in the 19th century, then the Chinese trade, it also fell in the hands of the western powers, like England, France, United States. And the Southeast Asia trade, means earlier these countries were ruling in trade, but now the trade went from their hands, and it was controlled by these European powers or western powers. And Southeast Asia, it was colonized by the Dutch, the English, the French, and the Spanish. Now the colonial involvement of Western European countries, it started in the 16th century. So in 16th century it all started. And means when these European powers, they tried to establish their colonies, and they wanted to interact with more countries, so that they can get more profit from the trade. And so this started in the 16th century, and it created new trade flows. So new trade routes, new trade flows. Flows means the centers of trade, they changed. And so these European countries, now they created new trade flows, and they also made sure that the Europeans, they also got control over the existing months, means control over the existing trade flows, means these Asian trade flows, they also got control over that. And for example, Spain and Portugal, they were the first European maritime powers, means these were the first two countries which maritime means connected to sea. So these countries, you could say, they were very good at sea. And their navies were also good, and they had good navigators and seamen, who can navigate through the sea and go to other countries. So these were the first two powers, and these two countries, they controlled much of the global flows in the 16th century. And this was through a system of colonial exploitation. Means what they did, they made colonies, they went for trade, they established their colonies there, got control over the country, established their colonies there. And then thus what happened, They sold their goods to that country, took in money from there, and in the process their own countries were they became better developed, more money in their countries, whereas the country, the colony, it became underdeveloped and dependent on the home country or the nation which has colonized them. So, as a result, what happened? Much capital now began flowing to Europe. Earlier, money was flowing into India and these countries, but now, as a result of all this, much capital it flowed back to Europe, and so the European countries, they were forced to discover new trade routes, and the reason were obviously quite obvious. What was the reason? That there was a great demand for Indian spices in Europe, and and as such the trade in spices, because the trade in spices brought big profits. They can get these things here and then they can sell it, so there was huge profit in that. And so what they thought, that earlier they had to buy things from here, but now when they control India, then obviously it will get much more easy and they will make more money as compared to the Indian traders. And why there was so much demand of Indian spices in Europe? Because in Europe during the winter season, they mainly they depend on meat, and now that could be preserved, and the taste of it can be improved only with the use of spices. So they needed these spices from India, and in addition to this, there was also a shortage of gold in Europe. And so the Europeans, they were more interested, more attracted towards India, and India was called as a which bird during older times?
Golden.
Golden bird. All right, so they knew there was a lot of gold here, and so gold was the only medium of trade, and they could find gold in large quantities in India. So that is why they were so interested in trading with India. And so the different European powers, they made their best effort to find a new trade route to India. And Christopher Columbus, he sailed to discover India, but instead he discovered America in 1492. And finally, it was Vasco da Gama in 1498 who discovered a sea route to India. And how he did? He reached Calicut in the western coast of India, and this he did after covering a long distance around Africa. So he covered a long distance around Africa, and then he came to the western coast of India. Now, so soon what happened? The European, not only one country, so many European countries, they plunged. They wanted to, take this dive into trade with India, and all of them wanted to trade with India. And now, obviously, if so many countries wanted the same thing, so obviously it led to conflicts between them, rivalry among them, enmity between them, and also to wars finally, and these are called as trade wars. So before moving on to these trade wars, first we will see that how the different European countries, they tried to establish their trading centers in India, how they began. So we begin with the Portuguese. The Portuguese, they were the first one in India. Now the Portuguese, they are said to be the pioneers, or the first one to find a new, different alternative sea route to India. And now Prince Henry of Portugal, who was popularly known as the navigator. Now he patronized, means he was helpful and kind to the people who were good at sea, who can control and manage the ships and monitor everything, and those who could even train people so that they can be better at sea, and all this on based on science, on scientific lines. So he patronized the navigators and all. And later on, what happened 10 years later, Vasco da Gama, under the patronage of King Emmanuel, he set out to discover India, and he crossed the Cape of Good Hope, reached Calicut in India in 1498. And when the Portuguese, they they landed in India. Now there was opposition from the Arabs which were already there, but still, in spite of this opposition, the Portuguese, they were able to establish their trading centers at Calicut, Cochin and Kannur. So they were able to establish their trading centers in these three places. Now when the Portuguese, they were successful, in India, so now it began a race among the different European powers, because each wanted a share of the Indian trade. And so trading companies were formed in different countries. And how these trading companies were formed, and they amassed, means they accumulated, they gathered together money. How they gathered money? Through the sale of shares among the merchants. So they sold their shares and got so much money. And they also, these companies also had the support of their own respective country governments. And so the English, Dutch, French and Danish trading companies, they were formed in the 17th century. Now, like we did that, Portuguese were the first ones to come India. So, they monopolized, they had total control, exclusive rights over the trade. They were the first European country at that time. We did not have any other European country, so they mobilized the trade, and they had exclusive rights over the trade. And they established their bases for trade in Goa, Daman and Diu, and this was along the west coast of India. But later on, what happened, when the British, they began taking interest in India, in Indian trade, the Portuguese, they were not able to compete with them. Okay, then after the Portuguese, the Dutch, means the people of Netherlands. All right, the Dutch, the people of Netherlands. Now, so the Dutch merchants, they also started their company in 1592, and in 1595 Cornelius Houtman, he set out for India, and he came to India, and then he returned here with a huge cargo of so many things and spices and everything. And as a result, when he went back, he had so many things that he carried from India. And as a result, many trading companies, they came into existence in Netherlands. And in 1602, all the Dutch companies, they were amalgamated, means they were united, they were combined into one Dutch East India Company. And the main objective of this Dutch East India Company was trade. And so, they concentrated their attention on the Spice Islands. Basically, they wanted spices, they were interested in spices and in trade, so their attention was mainly on the Spice Islands. Now, the main Dutch settlements in India were Cochin and Nagapattinam on Madras coast, and Chinsura in Bengal. Now, the Dutch, they controlled the spice trade after they defeated the Portuguese, and they also captured many of the territories of the Portuguese. Then the Danes mean the people from Denmark. They also made an effort to get a share in Indian trade, and they also had their factories in Tanjore in the south and Serampore in Bengal. But later on, the Danes, they sold their settlements to the British in 1845. Okay, so the Portuguese, the Dutch and the Danes. And now we move on to the French trade in India. Now, the Europeans countries, they were engaged, they all wanted to establish their business in India. So the French, they also established their company. And so in 1664, the French East India Company, it was formed. And in December 1667, the first French factory, it was established at Surat, and this was done by Francis Caron, who was the Director General of the company. Then later on, another factory of French, it was established at Masulipatam. Then Masulipatam. Then in 1672, Francis Martin, he was appointed the Director General, and he is said to be the real founders of the French company in India. He founded the settlement of Pondicherry, and he got a grant, all right, a reward, you can say, from the ruler of Bijapur, a grant from the ruler of Bijapur. And so he got this grant from the ruler of Bijapur and established Pondicherry there. Then the French, they also established their settlements at Chandarnagar, Balasore and Kasim Bazar on the east coast, and Mahe on the west coast. Then in 1779, 1739, sorry, they established Karaikal on the Coromandel coast. The French company, they had their headquarters in Pondicherry. Their naval base was in the Indian Ocean, in the Mauritius and the Reunion Islands. Now these were very far from India, so their naval bases and you know, it was quite a long way from India. And though you know, French, they were the last ones to arrive in India, but they are said to be the only rival of the English in the region. So though they came in the last, but still they were the only rivals the English had in this region. And both the companies, you know, both wanted to establish their supremacy over India, and so their intense, there was so much rivalry between the French and the English East India companies, and it resulted in three Carnatic wars in India. Why Carnatic? Because they fought in the region which was called as the Carnatic. That is why Carnatic wars. Okay, so now the British trade in India, we have done all. Now we move on. So though the English came in before the French, but we studied French first, and now we move on to English, because that is what we are going to do in detail. Now the English, you know, they also wanted to have their trade dealings in India, and so they also established their East India Company in 1600. Then first of all, Hawkins, he got the permission to establish a trade center in Surat. Then Sir Thomas Roe, who was a representative of the British, he also tried to get permission of Jahangir to establish their business centers at Ahmedabad, Roch and Agra. Then in 1639, the British, they laid the foundation of Madras. They formed this city of Madras and also constructed a fort which was called as Fort St. George. Then King Charles II in 1668, he rented Bombay to the company. He got Bombay on rent for the British East India Company. And what was the rent? Rupees, how much money? $10 per annum. So for $10 per year, he rented Bombay to the East India Company. And then later on, you know, he got Bombay, which now we know as Mumbai, as dowry. So when King Charles II, he married Princess Catherine, who was a Portuguese princess, and so he got Bombay as dowry. Then Aurangzeb, Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, he also allowed the British to establish their trade centers in Bengal, and the British, they laid the foundation of Calcutta in 1690. So you know, they developed three villages, and these three villages together later on developed into a city which was called as Calcutta, now Kolkata. Now the Britishers, they also built a fort there which was known as Fort William. So in Calcutta they built Fort William, in Madras they built Fort St. George. Then in 1717, the Mughal emperor, at that time the Mughal emperor was Farrukhsiyar, and he allowed the English to trade in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa without paying any customs duty. You know, when you are involved in trade, then you have to pay custom duty also for imports and exports, and local trade also you have to pay duties. So you know, the Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar allowed the English that they can trade in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, and without paying any custom duty. But then they had to pay him 3,000 rupees per year. So in return of 3,000 rupees per year, they got the right to trade in these areas without paying any custom duty. Now, so basically because of this, they were able to consolidate or strengthen their position in India, and the English, they were successful in first driving out the Portuguese and then the Dutch, and so they were left with the French East India Company only, and after a long struggle, they were also successful in driving out the French from India in 1763. Now, why all of them were so interested? Now, the main motive of these traders was to maximize profit. That is what we did, because they were all driven by by mercantilism. And so, you know, the main motive of these traders was to make maximum profit, and they wanted to buy goods at cheap rates from here and then sell at high profit in other places. And this led to so much competition and rivalry among the companies, and each one wanted to dominate and to control the market, because like if there are five, each will get only 20%. So they were not satisfied. They wanted to increase their profit. They wanted to eliminate others. Now if there are only four, you will get 25%. You remove one more, you get 33.33%. So that is, this led to rivalry among them, because each wanted to have a greater share in the Indian trade. And so if you are able to buy here more, obviously you will be able to sell more and obviously make more profits. So all these companies of different countries, they wanted to dominate and control the market, and this led to wars among themselves. And this also led to their interfering in the internal matters of the local rulers, because they wanted more concessions for themselves, and they tried to betray the other country, misinterpret the truth, and they backbited against the other companies and all that. And so they started, then they wanted to have a more control over the areas in India, so that they can establish their control here. And so this led to the interference in the internal affairs of the local rulers also. And finally the British and the French, they proved more successful and drove away the Portuguese, the Dutch and the Danes. Okay, so for today we will stop here. Have you all understood what we did today? Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Alright.
Yes, ma'am.
So for today we will stop
Yes,
here,
ma'am.
and then when we meet on Thursday, we will continue with the chapter.